Okay, now we're going to do the same thing we did with the toolkit squaring function and the toolkit exponential function, but we're going to do it with the reciprocal function, the toolkit reciprocal function. And you recall that the toolkit reciprocal function, the dot is in the middle of the fundamental square. And the graph looks something like this. Okay. Now we're going to just use 8 and 3.3. We're going to shift this thing 8 units this way and 3.3 units this way. Now you want to learn this, you really ought to sketch this. Just takes a short time to sketch it. There's things you got to think about, but you should be able to do a reasonable sketch. And you know, my 3.3, I should be able to do a reasonable sketch. That's not a good sketch. I wasn't looking at it right, so you might think of how I was looking at it. 3.3 would be 2 units higher than this. It would be up here. So I'm going to make that here a O and the raise a couple of things. Okay. Now let's see if that's 8, that's 3.3. That's too much. Actually, okay, it's not very well drawn to scale. Hopefully you'll do better. But there it is. Obviously it's 2 units from here to here. So 3.3 units would take me above this top line. Okay, in any case, there it is. And again, see if you can sketch a reasonable facsimile of this and figure out what some of your points are. Okay, well, I'm going to go ahead and do it now. Okay. I'm going to say that yeah, this point ought to come up with that. Yeah, that's well, right. Okay, I'm not doing a great job. There it is. I think the square is a little too big, but that's okay for the purposes of what we're doing right now. So we shift this over and now we have something that looks like this. Okay. Now we can say the same thing we said before. Y equals f of x is shifted, and we get g of x is f of x minus 8 plus 3.3. It's the same statement. This is the same no matter what the function is. I said that before, but it's worth repeating. Okay, so if this is y equals f of x equals 1 over x, and yeah, okay, then this is y equals g of x equals f of x minus 8 plus 3.3. Well, now we can write out the equation. Okay. If f of x is 1 over x, then f of x minus 8 is replaced x by x minus 8. You see that you have an x here, you have an x minus 8 here. So if this x is replaced by x minus 8, well, you got to replace this x as well by x minus 8. And we get 1 over x minus 8 plus 3.3. Okay. And then we can verify this for some of these points. Now, some of the points are a little harder to, you know, you can do the corner, but it's not on the graph. So let's think about what the coordinates of some of these points ought to be. Well, this point here is 1/2 2. Now we can do the whole construction. Here's your y-axis, here's your x-axis. And you cut the interval from 0 to 2.5 and cut that interval in half. And you get the point 1/2 2 is going to be there. And let's do a point down here. Let's do the point -2, -1/2, which is drawn particularly accurately on this graph. But we know the point -2, -1/2 has to be on the graph. Okay. All right, well, if we move the point 1/2 2, 8 units horizontally and 3.3 units vertically, where is the point that we get? We should plot and work that out. Okay. We'll set that if I'm not going to say 8 units horizontally. The x direction is horizontal, so we say 8 units in the x direction. And 3.3 units in the y direction. Where do we end up? What are the coordinates at the point where we end up? Again, you should think that through, jot it down, commit yourself before I tell you, which I'm going to do right now. Okay, well, how do we get there? We start at x equals 1/2 and we move 8 units. Well, that's going to give us x equals 8.5. But I'm going to write it out a little more formally. We're going to write 1/2 plus 8. And then we move from y equals 2 up 3.3 units. That's going to put us at 2 plus 3.3 equals 8.5 5.3. Check this. Okay, how do we check it? Think through. How are you going to check it? I'm going to check that this point lies on the graph of this function. Okay, well, easiest thing to do is plug in 1/2 here and evaluate this and see if you get 5.3. So y equals 1 over x minus 8 plus 3.3. That's 8.5. Got to stop using 8. It's hard to write 8. That's chalk. Okay, but if x equals 8.5, we get y equals 1 over 8.5 minus 8 plus 3.3. Okay, well, what's 8.5 minus 8? Well, that's 1/2. So it's 1 over 1/2 plus 3.3. Now make sure you got your arithmetic right. Have to be able to do arithmetic of fractions. Okay, that equals 1 divided by 1/2 is 1 times 2 over 1. So that's equal then to 2 plus 3.3. Y equals 5.3. We've verified it for this point, which ought to make the whole thing very plausible. And if you think about the details of the arithmetic, which you aren't going to do if you're punching it into a calculator, if you think about the details of the arithmetic, then you start to understand why this rule works the way it does, why it's f of x minus a. Now, work it out yourself for this point, and pick a couple other points that you know are on this graph. Add a to the x component, add 3.3 to the y component, and check it out. You might not have to write out all the steps that I do. It's pretty obvious that this is going to be 1 over 1/2. And if you know that 1 over 1/2 is 2 and know why it's 2, count to 1 by 1/2, then you know this is going to be 2 plus 3.3. It's going to be 5.3. And you're going to be convinced in a way that you will not be convinced if you punch buttons to get it. Again, if you're trying to do the point, let's say 1.414.707, you're going to use a calculator, okay? You're not going to try to do those numbers in your head, but 1 divided by 1/2, you got that. All right. Make sure you understand the rules for fractions. Make sure you understand 0 powers and negative exponents, stuff like that, so that you have a firm grounding on the behavior of these functions.